Okay, I've got two. There you go, I can move it down a bit. I've got two, I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to start it. So, I found two of the end ones. I've now started the corner. So all the frame has been done. Hello everybody, sorry, I forgot to say hello. Right, that's done. There we go. Apart. It must be around about here somewhere. Oh, no, it's on this side. got 3 in so far.
Eh?
Got 3 in so far.
You've got fucking 800 and 900 and something to go.
Yeah. I believe so.
Swap the computers over and that.
Yeah.
Oh, you've got your trees, don't you? You've got things to do, haven't you? Come on then, let's get your trees.
Right. I'm finding all the corners, I think. That's the best way of starting it. Not all the,
Today.
not the top bit, the bottom.
What? Blue today. Blue? Yeah. Gotta be warm. Okay, you smell very nice. I'm not giving you any more of that. Good enough.
of it's coming together. That bit. What you doing? Oh, that's turned out for all the good. I didn't see that was coming.
What? Right, choose your treats. Can't you just try it out?
Nearly stuck my toe then. Oh right, I see where you're up to.
Jumping computers in a minute.
Okay.
Well. sorting out bits of shit. Right, cat's bowl's installed, cat's tray's done, cat's had a treat. That's the main stuff.
This is all for the Christmas tree by the looks of it. Move these out of the way. I am here, but there's no one to talk to, so I'm on a silent.
This program is about unsolved mysteries. Whenever possible, the actual family members and police officials have participated in recreating the events. What you are about to see is not a news broadcast.
Tonight, all new stories on the season premiere of Unsolved Mysteries. In the 1980s, one UFO sighting after another, numbering into the thousands, astounded residents of New York's Hudson River Valley. The controversy boiled over when maverick stunt pilots claimed they were responsible for the spectacular light formations. When she was just 17, Tammy Lynn Liepert had it all. She was a beauty queen, an accomplished model who was well on her way to a career in the movies. But in 1982, Tammy began to withdraw, growing increasingly paranoid, until finally she vanished. In Paducah, Kentucky, a young stranger was seen loitering at the local airport, penniless and trying to talk his way onto a flight. People still wonder what drove him to make the desperate decision that would end his life. Join me for these intriguing stories on our season premiere. Perhaps you may be able to help solve a mystery.
Tammy is 16 years old. She's 5'4.5".
1982, the Miss America Sunshine Surf Beauty Pageant in Orlando, Florida. The eventual winner will be Tammy Lynn Liepert. Incredibly, at the age of 16, Tammy has already competed in more than 300 beauty contests. She has won the crown 280 times.
She was very loving, kind. She was always smiling. You never saw the child when she wasn't smiling. As young as I can remember, she woke up with a great big smile, and the last thing I saw when she went to sleep was a big smile.
Tammy Lynn Liepert was an uncommonly beautiful child. When she was just 4 years old, she was entered in her first beauty contest. Tammy's mother and father divorced when she was 7. Her fledgling career fell to the tender, loving care of her mother, who was a theatrical and modeling agent.
I was constantly busy running her around to where she had to go and what she had to do. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching her excel because she always went for the best that she could go for, the highest level.
Wing Flanagan,
Nice to
one of
see you
Linda's
too.
clients, was just 11
Nice lot,
when he began
Savvy.
living at her house. He and Tammy were like brother and sister.
Sorry, I've been
She
spray
would
painting that
bend
case.
over and kiss me on the cheek, and I couldn't quite ever get it completely off. It was rather, embarrassing to walk around with this mark.
And how?
But I think actually I learned to wear it
Merry
proudly
Christmas to
after a
you.
while because it was almost a status symbol.
Merry Christmas.
Tammy.
Been
In
okay.
July of 1982,
Ish.
Tammy Lynn was cast in the teen
There we go.
exploitation film Spring Break,
Good.
which would go on to earn nearly $25 million at the box office. After Spring Break,
How are
Tammy
you
went
doing?
unchaperoned to an out-of-town weekend party. She came
Yeah.
back a different person.
Sometimes I'd ask her, what was on her mind, if anything was bothering her. And she'd usually evade the question. She'd change the subject, or she'd say, oh, nothing,
They've both got colds.
and then try to laugh it off.
Soon, Tammy's behavior began to take on paranoid
He
overtones.
got the cold first and I got it second.
Just do it.
Fun. Not.
Hello? What's the matter, Teddy Cat?
No. She's not here right now. Yeah. Alright,
Yeah.
bye. talking now?
Hearing a detective story, you have the TV on, or is it my YouTube?
No. I made a discovery. It's a documentary of unsolved mysteries.
What did you see?
You can hear it but not see
She
it.
said that she saw something
Otherwise, you
so
get
horrible
copyright
that
strikes.
she couldn't
Exactly.
talk about it.
So
It's okay to
audio
listen.
is fine.
Mom,
You're okay to listen to them and broadcast it,
what would you say if I told you somebody was trying to kill
but
me?
you can't show the actual TV
What are you
show.
talking about? Tammy can't tell anybody. I can't.
Yeah,
I kept trying
I've
to find
not
out who
seen
they
these before
never would
ever,
tell
to be
me.
honest. I only come across this accidentally.
Tammy
Doing
Lynn
it this
began a
way.
steady retreat into
So-
isolation. Linda and Wing had no way of ascertaining
Hi,
which of Tammy's
Rusen.
fears were real and
Hi,
which were
Ruben.
paranoid
So
Again?
do I. I'm a binge
Once she
on
called me over to the window. She
crime,
said,
true
"Well, across
crime,
the
and
street, tell me what you
whatnot.
see."
So I love
said,
it.
Well, the neighbor's got a new van. And she said, exactly.
Rusen.
You know, I didn't know quite what she was getting at. And she said, the van has
And yes, I've
mirrored
done
windows.
the frame.
That means that they can see us, but we can't see
But you
them.
can't see it.
Yeah, the frame's actually built. It is
After
done.
2 weeks of
It is
virtual
done.
It's
seclusion,
just that it's
Tammy Lynn was
massive.
offered a small part in the big-budget Al Pacino
What is it?
film
It's like
Scarface,
two-
which
2.5.
began shooting in Miami in
No,
March of
no.
1983.
It's 28
She
inch.
stayed
No,
with
it
a
isn't.
family friend, Walter Leibowitz.
28.7
All went well
inches by
until the fourth
19
day of
inches.
filming.
I received a call from
So
the
I can't
casting
fit it all
director
on
to tell me that
The camera.
Tammy had
camera.
a breakdown on the
I need
set.
a wider camera.
You need a wide angle camera.
They said that there was a scene where someone was supposed to be shot and they had artificial blood
But
spurred
all
out.
these are
And they said when
the
Tammy was
Christmas tree.
watching the scene, she started crying hysterically. And
Well,
it
parts
got
of
so
the
bad
Christmas
that they had
tree.
to take her to a trailer.
Tammy, what's happened?
They're gonna kill me.
Who's gonna
They're
kill
gonna
you?
kill me.
She was in a tremendous
It's,
state of fear, anxiety,
You're gonna blow my head off like an
hysterically crying,
Oh,
saying something about money laundering, I don't know where to hide, things of that nature. What it was that caused this great fear in her, I don't know. When I spoke with Tammy's mother, I told her that she should take Tammy to a doctor and also take her to the police to find out if the problem was psychological or if there was some basis in fact that someone was actually trying to kill her and get to the bottom of it.
No, so it's
Tammy
not
Lynn
your.
quit the film
It's
and went
not
back to
your.
Cocoa Beach. At her mother's
YouTube or
insistence,
anything.
Tammy did talk to the local sheriff, but apparently never mentioned that she felt her life was in danger.
If I fall silent, it's, you know.
Even with her family, Tammy's
Okay, that's
paranoia
fine.
ran rampant. She became convinced that someone was trying to poison her.
Taste this. Why? Just do it. Fine.
There were good days and there were bad days. There were days when she was almost normal, almost. And there were other days when she was real edgy.
She was not the Tammy that we know. We did not recognize this Tammy in personality. She even began to take on a different look, kind of a wild look in her eyes and scared look is what it was. And if she really believed that somebody was going to try to kill her, scared is the feeling that we were seeing.
On July 1st, 1983, Tammy Lynn finally snapped.
What are you looking at?
Not you.
I saw you looking at me.
Why would I look at you?
Don't. Let me in! Let me in this house! Hey! Lock me out. Why did you lock me out?
What are you talking about? Why did you do anything to you? There was this completely crazy look in her eyes. She wasn't her. I don't think she really knew who I was.
That's what, well, I'm
I
alright.
kept saying over and
Be
over
fine.
again, Tammy, I love you. Until I finally saw recognition in her eyes.
Separate the colours.
I knew then, right then,
I
that
started
I
doing
handled that
some
incident.
parts.
But I didn't know if I was going to be able to handle the next one.
It's been years since I've done one of these.
Mm-hmm.
Linda checked
Like I said,
Tammy
the
into
last
the
one I
Brevard
did was
County
at
Mental Health
Dad's
Center
old
for
place.
a complete
Yeah.
physical and psychiatric
Long time
evaluation.
ago.
Doctors found no evidence of drug or alcohol use and kept Tammy in the hospital for 72 hours of observation.
Oh, dear.
After we took her home, she said, "You've got to make me a promise."
Oh, it looks the same to
I
me.
said, "If I can."
Mm.
She says, "Mom, if anything happens to me, anything at all, I want you to get even with that person for me. Would you please?"
If it were me, I'd look for all the
I said, "What do you
people's
think's
faces.
gonna happen, Tammy?"
Yeah, well, I've already
She
got
said,
a few.
"I know you don't want to hear this, but he's still gonna try to kill me."
Bye,
Rick
Ruth,
Lawrence was
take
Tammy's
care.
best friend.
See
They
you
went
later,
out the day
Ruthven.
after she was released from the hospital.
At that time, Tammy, we got out of the van,
I might order that picture frame in a minute.
and she looked at me, and
Aye.
Mm.
she
I
says,
need
"Rick,
to,
I
I need
love
to
you."
have a picture frame made as
I
well.
said, "Tammy, I love you too."
You know, for the blueprints for
She
that
said, "I might be going away
steam
for a
train.
while."
Yeah.
So I need to get them put in a frame. Bye, Ruth,
That next
take
day,
care.
everything seemed to be extraordinarily
Separate
normal.
the colours, she said.
She seemed, I think, really be
Do
trying
as
to
you're told.
impress me that she was okay.
Mom, I'll be back in a little bit.
Yeah, I've been told.
Hey, kitties. You had your dinner?
I suddenly got frightened, real
Yeah?
frightened. And I went to the
Well,
door
get
and
the
opened
capsule
it.
for
And I
Christmas
just
and
knew
all
right
together.
then it was the last time I was going to see her.
This friend picked her up at her home in Rockledge, Florida, and they drove to the beach. And we talked to him, and he basically stated that they'd become involved in a verbal argument, that she had
Yeah, alright,
requested
it was a picture of a
that he
steam
let
train,
her
not a
out
train, I
near
think.
the glass bank in Cocoa Beach, and he complied. And as far as we know, that was the last person to see Tammy alive.
Stop it! What do you want me to do? I just want you to shut up!
According to Tammy's friend, he dropped her off at approximately 3 p.m. on July 6, 1983, 5 miles from her house. She was barefoot and carried no purse.
She disappeared without a trace. We talked to some of her close friends. They felt strongly that Tammy was having problems at home, and that she had left home, that she wanted to leave home.
There's no conceivable way I would believe it. Because first of all, she was getting ready to go to California for 3 months. That's as far away from me as you could get, from Cocoa Beach to California. And she was really excited about going. What reason would she have for running away?
Tammy saw something. Tammy saw something that she shouldn't have. Tammy knew something she shouldn't have about someone that she was very frightened of. Sometimes I feel if I had asked her rather than told her that it was in her imagination, maybe she would still be here.
What could a 17-year-old girl have seen that caused her to fear for her life? During her breakdown on the set of Scarface, Tammy Lynn had mentioned money laundering. According to an official at the U.S. Customs Service, dozens of money laundering cases in Florida were under federal investigation at that time. Some call it sheer coincidence. Tammy's mother believes it is no coincidence at all.
I think Tammy is either a victim of foul play or she doesn't know who she is. as a mother, wanted to believe everything she told me, and I wanted to help her. If I had it all to do over again, I would go back and I would believe every single word she told me, and I would just hide her someplace until we found out what the truth was. But I can't do it over. And maybe she had to hide on her own, I don't know.
No matter what happens, I would like for things to turn out for the best.
This interview was taped in 1983 during Tammy Lynn's final beauty pageant.
It seemed like the best aren't the best, and things that don't seem so good are the best. But I'll do my best no matter what.
When we return, a series of UFO sightings fuels controversy in New York's Hudson River Valley. The quiet beauty of New York's Hudson River Valley belies its location just 40 miles north of the bustling streets of Manhattan. The valley is home to upscale professionals and retirees. They tend to be well-educated and cosmopolitan, hardly the type of people you would expect to be swept up by UFO fever. Yet that is exactly what happened to more than 5,000 area residents between 1983 and 1989. The epidemic of sensational UFO sightings in the Hudson River Valley lasted 6 years. Ultimately, the entire episode was largely dismissed as a hoax perpetrated by a group of local stunt pilots. However, to this day, many of the eyewitnesses maintain that what they saw could not have been a handful of airplanes. Dennis Sant, a husband and father of 5, has worked in local government for 17 years. He is currently the highest-ranking deputy in Putnam County. On March 17, 1983, Sant's home in Brewster was the site of an extraordinary event.
Come on here and see this!
It was a very large object. The structure of it was very dark gray, metallic, almost girder type looking.
What is it?
Girls, come on here and see this.
See you later, Savvy. That's allowed.
The object seemed to be very silent. The lights were iridescent, bright. They stood out in the sky in 3 dimension. It looked like a city of lights just hung in the sky of all brilliant colors. At that time, the girls became very frightened and they ran inside the house. Then my son and I were just drawn underneath it. Felt very good about encountering a visual contact with the object. We followed the object around to the backyard, and at that point, a feeling of fright came upon me. Thoughts started to flood my mind, thoughts of the craft touching ground, thoughts of an encounter with an alien being, thoughts of being abducted. All types of fearful thoughts started to enter into my mind. And it seemed only to be seconds before the object started to move again, but the feelings were overwhelming. From beginning to end, the 19 or 20 minutes that I had viewed that craft was also a time of self-examination of myself and who I was.
Dennis Sant and his family were not the only ones mesmerized by the extraordinary light formation. A few miles away, traffic screeched to a halt on Interstate 84 as a mysterious object hovered overhead. The Hudson Valley sightings had only just begun.
I was sitting there looking at it, and I wasn't afraid. I was just amazed. I was in awe of it. I didn't know what it was. And,
Officer Andy Sadoff, a 10-year veteran of the Newcastle Police, is also an instructor in criminal child abuse procedures. On March 24th, 1 week after Dennis Sant's sighting, Officer Sadoff was working routine traffic patrol.
I was working a 4 p.m. to midnight tour and assigned to set up some radar to look for speeding cars. I had the radar set up, and I looked up into the sky and saw, coming from east to west, there was a series of lights. And at first I thought it was a plane. It was quite a distance, quite far away, but it was really quite large. As I recall, there were mostly white lights, but there were green lights also. It was alternating green and white lights. It approached my vehicle, and as it approached the vehicle, it stopped, and it seemed to hover. There was no sound, and I'm looking at this thing, thinking, what is it? When I put my head out the window and I'm looking up at it, it was huge. The thing that I recall the most is I was amazed that there was no noise. There was no humming, there was no engine, no low sound to it. It was absolutely silent.
Just seconds later, the eerie silence was broken. Another eyewitness report.
Could you please send somebody else? I'm observing something incredible.
Unit 5 to base. I'm seeing it too. It's hovering above my car. It's heading towards town. I'm following it.
At the time that we started to transmit over the air, that was about the time that it started to move, and it moved very slowly, almost floated. And we followed it. We followed it until it disappeared off into the hills. I guess I was mostly curious as to what it could be, you know, excited to try and figure out, well, maybe it's this, or maybe it's a government thing, or... But I wasn't frightened of it, no. There really wasn't time to be frightened of it. I was spending most of my time trying to figure out why there was no noise coming out of this thing, so...
It was truly a flying city, if that's the way you want to call it. I mean, it was huge.
Computer engineer Ed Burns is a retired senior manager for IBM. At the time of the sightings, Burns handled the company's contracts in Japan and South America. On the night of March 24th, at virtually the same time Officer Sadoff was pursuing the mysterious object, Ed Burns was driving home on the Taconic Parkway, 10 miles north of Sadoff's location.
Out of nowhere, I got a lot of static on the radio. You know, I thought maybe I was on the wrong number, and then I went over to turn the dial again, and that's when I looked up and saw this craft. It was a triangular chevron ship, and the back of that chevron had to be as large as a football field, at least. It was one solid piece of a chevron shape, and there was no noise. It seemed so close to the ground. It seemed like I could have thrown a rock at it, maybe.
Ed Burns pulled off the highway and joined a group of motorists by the side of the road. All were gazing skyward, seemingly dumbstruck.
It was so shocking. This one fellow that I was talking to never did answer me a bit.
Isn't that incredible? Have you ever seen anything so huge?
And he was just staring at this thing, and I remember his size of his eyes were so huge, and never did answer me at all. It seemed like I talked for an hour. It was probably only a minute, but I was so excited about it. I wanted to share whatever I was feeling at the time. Where was it from? I'm not into astronomy, Mars. I mean, I don't know the solar systems, but what I had witnessed that night was not from this planet.
The eyewitness reports indicated the object was slowly moving north over the Hudson River Valley. Officer Sadov and at least 12 others saw it in Newcastle. 10 minutes later, Ed Burns and at least 20 motorists saw it near Millwood. 10 minutes after that, the phones began ringing off the hook in the police station at Yorktown.
Yorktown PD, Officer Wolf. No, ma'am, everything is fine. No, we've had several reports. Everything is under control.
Every line kept going. Every single line, constantly. I answered the phone, another line would light up.
Yes,
I answered the next line, another line would light
I've
up.
heard about it, sir. There's really nothing to worry. Please hold, sir.
Got to the point, and I got a call of the Connick Parkway being stopped. The people were all out in the cars. It was starting to get really crazy.
Go ahead, Sorvella.
I'll be 1017.
As I tried calling the cars to find out if they saw anything. And the only one that called with the cars was Kevin, said that he would stop in.
Officer Kevin Soravilla had also seen the dazzling lights reported by dozens of Yorktown residents.
The object was extremely large and estimated to be close to 300 to 400 yards wide. We stood out in front, facing to the north. In approximately about 5 minutes, the object began to appear from the northern horizon.
Officers Wolf and Soravilla were standing side by side under the same sky, yet their accounts are entirely contradictory.
It's gotta be a group of planes or something.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think I see a wing in there.
I don't think so. They don't look like planes.
Officer Soravilla is convinced that what he saw was one large object with a number of small lights.
I would say approximately 16, 18 lights running in a V formation, approximately 200 to 400 yards wide. I was standing between the lights to see any type of a solid structure, where he may have basically been staring at the lights themselves.
They look like airplanes to me, I says, Kev. I says, you know, I live near an airport, so I see these airplanes every day. So as they were coming over, he says, well, he can't hear anything. I said, listen. With that, when we started hearing a drone, it wasn't one big solid unit. But if you looked at it for like a couple of minutes or even a fraction as it was coming over, I could see where some people would have gotten upset.
Suddenly, the Hudson Valley sightings had taken a dramatic turn. It appeared that the UFOs were a hoax, nothing more than small aircraft flying in precise patterns. But this earthly explanation was lost in an avalanche of additional sightings, which continued unabated month after month. In addition, many claim this circular formation, photographed as it swept over the area, is also a UFO. However, other eyewitnesses counter that the unusual lights they had seen were nothing more than small airplanes flying in wedge-shaped formations.
There's anywhere from upwards of 7 to 10 aircraft that do fly around in formation, and this is visible from our tower.
Anthony Capaldi has been an air traffic controller for just under 10 years. In the summer of 1983, he made an observation that seemed to settle the UFO controversy once and for all.
The first time I observed the formation flying, it looked a little peculiar.
What's that over Stormville?
And from our vantage point in the tower, they just appear to be just one big light because they are flying in tight formation. To estimate the size, maybe 2 football fields wide.
There's would be 6 aircraft flying in formation.
I imagine it's possible at first glimpse that an observer may not be fully aware of what this formation is, but I don't think if this formation flew over an individual's head at 1,000 feet that there's any way you can misdiagnose it for anything but the formation flying due to the sound of the aircraft engines. And I imagine at 1,000 feet you could really determine that it's aircraft.
The UFO was surely seen before these hoaxer pilots began their night flights. And after these hoaxers began their night flights, people would call me up who had seen the UFO on previous dates and said, well, I saw something strange in the sky, but it wasn't the same thing that I saw a week before. It definitely was planes. So you had people who saw the UFO, and then you had people who saw the planes and were able to identify each as being something strange and something totally explainable.
Holy good God. I don't know.
Not quite.
I'm gonna tell you something, honey. I don't know what the hell it is.
This home videotape showing a light formation above Brewster, New York, was taken July 24th, 1984 by local resident Bob Pozzuoli. Philip Imbrogno is convinced it shows a UFO.
Being a scientist myself, I'm still waiting for it to be proved 100%, although it has been looked at by a number of photographic experts who indicate that the movement of the object on the video seems to be one rigid object and not individual objects. Plus, there were hundreds and hundreds of witnesses who saw the UFO and said it was something strange, but the night that the airplanes were seen, there were also dozens of witnesses who said, in fact, that they did see airplanes.
This image was videotaped in June of 1984, also by Bob Pozzuoli. Skeptics and believers all agree that it shows a squadron of small planes that some say are military aircraft.
Did you hear the engines?
If you look at that video, you can see that the lights are shifting position in relation to each other. The fellow who videotaped it is talking about he can hear the engines, he can see the stars as the object is passing over him. As a matter of fact, when that videotape was made of the airplanes, no one came forward to say they had seen a UFO. People called me and said they had seen airplanes flying in formation. But the night of the UFO sighting, when the videotape was made, I had hundreds of phone calls to different telephone lines of people who had in fact seen a UFO.
What is the truth about the spectacular light formations that cruise the Hudson River Valley? Were they aerial stunts performed by sophisticated pranksters, or UFOs of unknown origin? Even those who saw the same object at the same time cannot agree.
I personally think that it was an airplane or people who were playing games trying to get a rush and an excitement out of making people feel, hey, there's somebody from another world here, where in fact they were just fooling people's mind.
If it was ultralights, I'm a little amazed by the precision
I
flying.
agree with that.
I have to see it again to believe it. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure about it.
In a man's life, particular things unfold that make an impression for the rest of their life. This was one of those moments in my time that made a very dramatic impression upon me. What I saw was not planes in formation.
There was no shaking or movement or rocking back and forth of any of the lights. It was perfectly still. You know, I'm not trying to say what it was. I don't know what it was. I know it wasn't an airplane.
I tell the story a lot to certain friends that I can trust that'll believe me. My wife, I think, believes me because she loves me and respects me. I don't know if my children do, but they love and respect me. But they also read the papers, I guess, and I guess about this 5 other airplanes, maybe they equated to that. But boy, I'll tell you, I'll never forget that as long as I live. And 5 airplanes, it was not.
In preparing to film this story, Unsolved Mysteries asked the alleged hoaxers to recreate one of their flights during daylight hours. No one was willing to be publicly identified. This may be because when flown at night, some of the maneuvers violate FAA regulations. According to Tony Capaldi, most of the formation flights took place on Thursday nights. It is interesting to note that less than 1/3 of the UFO sightings occurred on Thursday nights. In a moment, a young man dies under tragic circumstances. September 30th, 1991, Paducah, Kentucky.
Are you a pilot? No, I'm sure not. Do you know a pilot I can talk to? No, I sure don't.
Just after 6 p.m., a young man approached airport worker Wes Weaver at Paducah's small airfield.
Listen, I'm really in a bind. I really need to get out west. You gotta know somebody here that can help me out.
I'd kind of thought that maybe he was into something he wasn't supposed to be into, running from something. Because he honestly, he didn't act drugged up, and he didn't act like he was drunk, and he really didn't act crazy. He was kind of desperate.
Come on, man. I mean, look, I've got this jacket. Isn't there some way I could trade this jacket for a lift? You know, one of the pilots around here? I'm sorry.
What began as an odd encounter soon evolved into a tragic and perplexing mystery.
I finally just kind of told him, you know, and made it to the point to where, you know, he should leave. And he stood around for a little while, and finally he went back through the hangar.
30 minutes later, Wes Weaver saw the stranger again.
And he had the jacket on, and I thought it was kind of strange. So I kind of slowed down and watched, and I saw him run across the ditch and jump up on the fence and jump over and run towards the plane, and that's when I radioed for someone to call security.
You better call security. We got a guy jumping over the fence at 2-2.
Two other witnesses saw the young man run across the airstrip.
Me and my husband was out in the yard, and this plane, you know, pulled up, and we saw this guy running in the field. He run over to on the other side of the plane. Well, we never did see him no more.
The way he was running to it so fast, you know. He was up to something.
The only aircraft on the runway was commuter flight 2940, destination Memphis, Tennessee. Just before sunset, at exactly 6:49, the plane was cleared for takeoff. Everything seemed normal.
The plane got way up in the air, and I stood there, you know, was watching. In a few minutes, I seen something fall. And I told my husband, I said, something fell out of that plane.
As darkness fell, airport authorities mobilized an extensive search, looking for any sign of the man witnesses had seen. At the northern end of the airfield, Director of Airfield Services Ron Jones noticed a section of fence which had been damaged. Lying at the base was the body of the young stranger.
It really hit me then that this actually happened, that someone actually got onto an aircraft some kind of way, and that someone had fallen to their death.
No identification of any kind was found on or near the body.
As we examine the hand, we note that the nails appear to be manicured and well groomed.
Blood tests reveal no traces of drugs or alcohol in the victim's system.
We noticed that his body was well tanned and that there were not any tan lines. The pubic hair was shaved in a swimmer's type style, or of someone who may have been wearing tights. We searched out leads with a male dancer troupe that was here, the Chippendale type dancers who were here the week prior, and we based that on too his well-developed physical appearance, his tan body, the shaved pubic area, and all of those leads were negative when they were researched.
This is a jacket worn by the young man. In one of the pockets, investigators found a pair of swimming goggles. Sewn into the collar was an ID tag inscribed Lieutenant L.F. Price, USAF. A check of military records could find no such person.
When we go back and look at this series of events that led up to this incident, the individual had approximately 90 seconds to 2 minutes to climb over a 7.5-foot high fence, traverse approximately 800 foot of terrain, including one ditch system, run around the aircraft's tail section, and then climb on the aircraft, although we have no actual witnesses to his climbing on the aircraft. And again, the time interval was between 90 seconds and 120 seconds. It's quite an accomplishment.
Within seconds, Flight 2940 was barreling down the runway at 125 miles an hour. Once airborne, the speed increased to more than 190 miles an hour.
And that obviously is a substantial wind force upon anyone trying to stay
on the wing of an aircraft with really no handholds. We judge at this point that he managed to stay on for approximately 3,000 to 3,500 feet after the aircraft departed the ground. I wonder what was so important to make him take a chance on trying to catch a ride on the outside of an aircraft.
I think that there's an answer with his family. His family may not have even known that he was coming home. And I think that that's probably, if we could just get over that hurdle there, I think we'd find out why.
Join me next time for another edition of Unsolved Mysteries.
This program is about unsolved mysteries. Whenever possible, the actual family members and police officials have participated in recreating the events. What you're about to see is not a news broadcast.
In 1977, a trip to Lake Champlain began as an ordinary summer vacation for Sandra Mancy. It turned out to be anything but ordinary when Sandra took this remarkable photograph along the shore of the lake. Some experts believe the picture may be evidence that Scotland's famous Loch Ness Monster has an American cousin. Meet Pierre, a man without a past. In May of 1992, he wandered, confused, disoriented and penniless, into a homeless shelter in San Diego. He hopes that someone watching tonight can tell him who he is and where he came from. Todd Kelly and Christy Mutsfield were high school sweethearts until Christy went away to college and began dating another man. A few months later, Todd Kelly was found murdered, apparently the victim of a lethal lover's triangle. Also tonight, a woman has been reunited with her family after she watched her own story on Unsolved Mysteries. Join me. Perhaps you may be able to help solve a mystery. Hamilton, Indiana is a small lakeside resort town with just 684 permanent residents. In the summer, the population swells into the thousands thanks to vacationers looking for a tranquil escape. But on August 9th, 1989, the peace and serenity of Hamilton was shattered forever. At 7 a.m., Christy Mutsfield arrived at the home of her boyfriend, 19-year-old Todd Kelly. Moments later, she fled in terror.
I saw him laying on the floor, and I screamed his name, and I could just see just by looking at him that something was very wrong, wasn't right.
Todd Kelly was dead, stabbed 7 times in the chest, back, and wrist. His death hit horrifyingly close to home for Christy Mutzfield. Just hours earlier, the 2 lovers had been together in the same house where Todd was killed. The authorities immediately questioned Christy Mutzfeld, and the story which unfolded would eventually place her at the center of an ongoing controversy. By the end of the interrogation, a primary suspect had emerged. Another man whom Christy had been dating. A man who represented the third side of a lethal lover's triangle, built on the affections of Christy Mutzfeld. Christy met Todd Kelly during their junior year in high school. For Todd especially, it was love at first sight.
Todd was a very kind person, very sweet. He didn't hold any grudges against anyone. Todd really just cared about everybody for who they were. After graduation, he asked me to marry him. And I guess I said no. I said I really wasn't ready. I thought there was other things I really wanted to do right now. And it's pretty much where we broke it off right there.
The next fall, Christy enrolled at a small college just 7 miles from Hamilton. She soon began dating Mahfouz Haq, a student whose parents had emigrated from Bangladesh when he was just an infant.
And he was very outgoing, very energetic. He was interested in what I had to say, and he was interested in what I thought and what I believed in.
Despite outward appearances, Mahfouz Haq was not what he seemed to be. Shortly after he met Christy, Mahfouz and one of his friends were arrested for 3 separate robberies. In one of them, Mahfouz stole $100,000 worth of jewelry from his own aunt.
He told me that it was all his friend, his friend was a pro at it, he'd been wanted in other states, and he pretty much laid it all off on his friend. After he was arrested and he had to go on house arrest, I guess it would become, he became very possessive. And he said that if he ever saw me with anybody else, then they would probably kill him and then kill me.
A few months later, Christy rekindled her romance with Todd Kelly, but Mahfouz Haq, who lived nearby, remained very much in the picture. 2 weeks before the murder, Mahfouz walked the 10 miles from his house to Christy's, only to discover that she was out with Todd Kelly. On August 7th, the day before the murder, Todd was at the home of a friend, Mike Kuhn, when Mahfouz appeared unexpectedly.
What can I do for you? I want to talk to you about Christy a little bit. What would you like to know?
Mahfouz asked Todd if he was going to put us in, and that time Todd had told him no.
It's getting there slowly. I will be live later on for a little bit. Not too long though. So I'll see you guys later on. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'll see you later. Lots of love. Bye everybody.